Conservative American Message, hosted by the one and only Cam Lau. It is Monday, July 8th, 2024, and you are listening to the 79th episode of this podcast. Our quote for this week comes from famous economist Milton Friedman. He said, "The only corporate social responsibility a company has is to maximize its profits." If you support what we're doing here at the Conservative American Message, please show us your support by making a purchase in our merch store. Go to campodcast.square.site or just click the link in the description of this episode. If you want to support the podcast for free, please give us a 5-star rating and follow or subscribe wherever you listen. To stay up to date on everything we're doing, follow us on social media at the Conservative American Message on Instagram and Facebook. I said it, but I didn't actually expect it to happen. After Biden's terrible performance in his debate with Trump, prominent Democrats are beginning to call for him to step down and let someone else run before it's too late. Democratic voters have been calling for this since the election began, so it was only a matter of time, I suppose. But Biden does not show any intention yet of stepping down, and the DNC has basically alluded that they're going to stick with him unless he makes the decision. And Joe Biden says he's staying in unless the Lord Almighty comes down and tells him to get out, which isn't too far out of the realm of possibility if you ask me. The Democrats are scared because they know that Biden isn't all there, but they have to back him because they're deathly afraid of Donald Trump. Trump derangement is the only tactic that the Democratic Party has. But Trump's popularity continues to rise as more and more common folk come to the realization that the Democrats are liars who never deliver anything positive for this country. Even if Joe Biden drops out of this race, the consensus thus far from Democrats has been that Kamala is his natural successor. She will be propped up by the party. And I think they would be stupid to run with her. There's just no way that would work out well. Kamala is polling worse than Biden, so it's unlikely that they're going to get rid of him because they'll have to find an actual legitimate contender to take his place, and Kamala is not it. Someone like Gavin Newsom could take on the role and might actually have a shot, but the current administration has no chance against Trump. You know, I've been talking about and I assumed that Kennedy would be a natural fit for the Democrat voters who are hesitant to vote for Biden but hate Trump. But, you know, after receiving some feedback from some liberal people, I realized that I was wrong because they are so COVID crazed that his anti-vax agenda does not fit with them at all. So although Kennedy will certainly still take some votes away from Biden, I don't think it's going to be quite as extreme as I was predicting before. There are still 3 months left to the election, though, and a couple left before the Democrats even hold their convention. So there's a lot of time, but it's running out fast. John Deere has been massively laying off its workers and moving more and more of their manufacturing operations abroad in places like Mexico. Over 600 employees are losing their jobs this summer in Illinois and Iowa. Meanwhile, a new plant is being built in Mexico. Everyone that I talk to about this and all of the attention I see on social media is calling John Deere greedy and demanding that they keep manufacturing jobs in America. But if you know my show, you probably know that I'm going to take this a little differently. Why? Why in the world would John Deere manufacture their equipment in the United States? What incentive is there? They have to pay much higher wages and benefits to U.S. workers. They have to deal with unions who were literally on strike just last year. And they have to deal with far more government regulation than in other places. These are not menial expenses. These issues cost companies big dollars. So it is not greedy for a company to increase their profits. It is wise to do so. There's no reason for a company like John Deere to do any manufacturing in this country whatsoever. So they're actually better off than a lot of other companies. The idea that a corporation has some kind of moral obligation to do anything is a joke. These workers will complain about their wages, and on the flip side, there are farmers who cannot afford this equipment, especially with these grain prices. Listen, my heart goes out to those long-term Deere employees who lost their jobs, but you cannot seriously be mad at the company for trying to cut costs on already insanely expensive equipment. This mentality that so many of my fellow blue-collar workers have is just disgusting. Thinking that a company owes you is nothing but pure entitlement. I don't care how long you work somewhere. If the job you do can be done by someone else more efficiently and cheaper, then it will be. Plain and simple. That's just common sense. You have got to be creating more value than the competition, and I'm sorry, but if a Mexican can do it for less and do just as good a job, then why would somebody pay you more for the same result? And then the consumer is going to have to eat the cost of your bloated wage. People want high wages, yet low living costs, and then they feel cheated on their paycheck and robbed at the grocery store, so they point the finger at the companies making the products who have employees that they have to pay wages to. In reality, nearly every American is overpaid for the job they do. I don't care if you're a nurse, a welder, a plumber, a factory worker, or a fast food cook. It does not matter. You are not special. You are not entitled to anything. There was a time when conservatives all agreed on this, but these days everyone is entitled. This is not just a message for the young entitled kids coming out of college with 4-year degrees who think they're hot stuff. This is a theme even among 60 and 70-year-olds who tell me that they deserve more. Let me tell you right now, you deserve nothing, and everything you have is a gift from God. I mean, holy crap. People just don't have the slightest concept of economics, and it gets me so irritated. If you need someone to blame, look at the labor unions whose ridiculous demands have driven jobs out of this country. Unions are one of the greatest downfalls of this nation. Look at your government. They are the ones that are actually robbing your paycheck. They're the ones that are making it just about impossible to run a profitable business in this country. We've been forced into a global economy, and therefore your wage is not going to be given to you based on your cost of living here in the U.S., but actually based on some third world countries where everything can be done easily and for nothing. Until something is done to encourage capitalism in this country, then by golly, John Deere ought to move to Mexico, and the CEO who makes that decision should get a raise, because he's not evil or greedy or none of that. He's just smart. It's capitalism, baby, and we are playing on the world stage, like it or not. Now, there is an alternative to giving up everything to Mexico and China, and this is where Donald Trump comes in. Trump has spoken about a new tax system that relies heavily on tariffs rather than income taxes. So, if every imported good is taxed to a level playing field, then American companies could actually compete. When tariffs to import an X9 combine bring the costs up to the same level as it would cost to just simply make it here, John Deere would obviously do it. Not to mention, when all of the grain that is imported into this country is more expensive, then the price will be driven up here domestically. This should be a no-brainer economic policy that promotes America first. So stop pointing fingers at corporate executives and acting like they're the bad guys just for being smart. Your government is the problem. I'm not claiming our system is perfect, and in a perfect world, all 600 of those Deere employees would remain employed, but the flaws in our system lie with those who actually regulate the system, not those who are simply successful in playing the game. Well, that's all I have time for. Were you offended by this podcast? Good. Thanks for listening, guys. I really appreciate you all. Have a great week and stay conservative.